In this video, I will be going over what happens after the events of Invincible Season 2, Part 1, so there will be spoilers ahead. You've been warned. After Omni-Man is taken by the Viltrumite army, we see Mark has recovered from his injuries and is helping the Thraxans rebuild planet Thraxa after the destruction caused by the Viltrumites. While Mark is moving around what seems to be a gigantic and heavy pillar, Andressa, Omni-Man's new mate and basically Mark's new stepmom, approaches and thanks Mark for all his hard work. She lets him know that without him, the cleanup of this great city would have taken generations. And since Andressa is now the oldest living member of the planet, she has been crowned Queen of Thraxa. While they are speaking, one of Andressa's subjects approaches and lets them know that the spaceship that can get Mark back to Earth is ready. But Mark tells the Queen that he isn't ready to leave yet. He explains that in just a month, he's been able to make so much progress on the planet. 2 more weeks, and he should be done completely. Andressa insists that the time has come for Mark to return to Earth. She says he has done enough for her and her people, and also he reminds her of Nolan and all that she has lost since his capture. Mark accepts Andressa's request, but before he leaves, the Queen has one very important thing left to tell Mark. It is about his brother. It is clear that Andressa doesn't have much time left to live, as she's already several months old, and Thraxans are only known to have a lifetime of 9 months. Mark is shocked that Andressa wants her own son to go with Mark to Earth, but she gives him a very valid reason as to why. She explains that the little guy could never have a normal life on planet Thraxa since his mother would die before he could even form a sentence, and entire kingdoms would rise and fall before he reaches adulthood. The only logical solution is for him to leave with Mark and live a more normal life on Earth. Back on Earth, we see Debbie talking on the phone with Amber as she arrives home, but as soon as she steps inside, she is surprised to see Mark standing in front of her. She hugs her son, whom she hadn't seen for over a month, and asks him what he was wearing. They have their small talk before Mark lets his mom know that he saw Nolan on this planet. Debbie is absolutely shocked by hearing this, but Mark tells her the hurtful truth that Nolan will not be coming back to Earth, since he was taken by the Viltrumite army and also because he didn't want to, and became upset each time Mark brought up his mother. Debbie is frustrated after hearing all that and needs a drink, but Mark tells her that there is more. His little brother calls out to him as Debbie turns around to see a little purple kid. Mark tells her the whole story, with Andressa and Nolan having a kid with her, but now there would be no one to look after the little guy. Mark was hoping that Debbie would look after the kid and take care of him, but Debbie is speechless. Meanwhile, we catch a glimpse of the Mahler twins coming to an agreement that both of them are clones, since the original clone died in Angstrom Levy's explosion. But then they start arguing if both of them are clones. One of them has to be a clone of the other, and the stupid little clone argument continues. While they are speaking, they are interrupted by Robot, who suddenly appears and offers them a job. Back at the Grayson household, Debbie tells Mark that this is too much to process, and Mark tells her that he doesn't know where else to take him. While all this is being discussed, Mark gets a call from Cecil, asking him to report to the Pentagon right away. He asks Debbie to please watch over the toddler for the time being. Debbie has no choice but to take care of him, as she smiles at the child. Later, Mark arrives at the Pentagon to speak with Cecil. Cecil asks him about Omni-Man and if Mark thinks that he is still a threat to Earth. Invincible tells Cecil that Omni-Man is not a threat anymore, but that the Viltrumite race still is. He explains that he was chosen by the Viltrumites to conquer Earth in the next 100 years because they still believe that Mark will come to his senses. Cecil tells him that this just may be a trap and that maybe they plan to come earlier than that, but just don't want anyone to know. Then he tells Mark to not go to other planets for so long like he did, since Earth was under attack during that time, and they almost lost. Mark tells Cecil that it was the correct decision for him to go to Thraxa, because if not, the planet would have been destroyed. They get into a heated argument, but Mark ends it by letting Cecil know that he will do what he thinks is right, and if he is needed, Cecil knows where to find him. Mark then goes to his dorm room at Upstate University and sees his roomie. William is weirded out by Mark's new outfit and says that he might be swinging for the other team with the way he looks. Mark just lets him know that he is here to change and go see Amber, to which William responds, "So you're not here to see me?" Mark replies, "Now who's a bit gay?" But William claps back by telling him that he came to see him before he saw Amber, so he's back to being the gay one. After that, we see Mark arriving at Amber's dorm room, where she reveals to Mark how extremely mad she is with him for having disappeared for 2 months and then appearing out of nowhere. She tells him she had been having mixed feelings with all this superhero stuff and doesn't know whether to hit him or hug him. Mark is saddened to see Amber like this, but has no other choice but to agree with her. Some time had passed, and Debbie had become accustomed to the new inhabitant in her house. 3 hours had passed since Mark left to speak with Amber. During this time, Debbie had bonded with the little one. To Mark's mother's delight, she finds his actions quite clever. All of this had been intentional so that she would grow fond of the child. Obviously, she now accepted him into her home. She asked if the baby had a name, and Mark explained the Mantis people's traditions. They choose their own names when they come of age. However, Debbie insists they must give him a name, which is one of their traditions Mark won't be able to fulfill. Additionally, he tells her about various adoption options and a holographic modulator that could change the baby's skin tone if desired. They also discuss the possibility of getting a private tutor, which Debbie agrees to. She only wants what's best for the baby. Debbie then reminds Invincible that Art brought him a new suit, which is upstairs, so Mark simply flies around the house to change into the suit. Meanwhile, in an undisclosed location, Robot has finally brought the Mauler twins to his secret base. Here, they encounter a strange creature floating in a jar. He's the one who had a job for the Maulers. He needs their help. This strange individual has taken one of the Maulers' gestation tubes and improved it. He's been creating a new body using the stolen DNA thanks to Robot. This individual has spent his whole life afflicted by his appearance, but he's never let it hold him back. He's a millionaire, but his condition prevents him from enjoying his fortune. He's sensitive to air and light, which would burn his skin. Now that he's created a new body, the only thing left is to figure out how to transfer his mind into it. This is something the Mauler twins are experts at. The strange creature offers them any price they desire, and the Maulers agree. Meanwhile, in the center of town, everyone is being mentally controlled by a villain. The Guardians of the Globe don't know how to stop him without hurting the people. Immortal doesn't know how to react to the situation. Black Samson informs him that they are doing everything they can, but in a moment of carelessness, his earpiece is removed, leaving him susceptible to mind control. Now, Mastermind, the villain, has started controlling him. The rest of the heroes try to fight the crowd, but it's too late. Now, Black Samson has removed Immortal's earpiece, and Monster Girl wonders where Robot is. It's likely that this type of control doesn't work on him, but none of the heroes know where he is. Slowly, the Earth's guardians are being controlled, and everyone tries to attack Monster Girl. Suddenly, from the sky, a massive rock is thrown by Invincible, who is floating above the turmoil. With Cecil's help, he knows where to aim, and in a matter of seconds, the villain is defeated. One of Invincible's companions thinks it's unfair that he intervened. This was his moment. Mark employed this strategy because he didn't have earpieces to block the mind control. He had to attack from a distance. There have been minor damages, but the good thing is that the citizens are safe. Immortal thinks Invincible did a great job. However, his other teammate doesn't think it was such a good job. When everything is settled, Mark returns home. His mother is feeding the little baby. The only thing the baby had eaten was some nutritious paste that was on the ship. Mark's mom asks why he's back, and Invincible replies that he needs to do laundry. He doesn't have any clean clothes. His mother suggests that he brings his laundry over occasionally, and she'll wash it, or he can do his own laundry. Mark's excuse is that he's always saving the world, so his mom has no choice but to help him with the laundry. Meanwhile, he stays with his brother. But before Debbie leaves, she lets Invincible know that Eve tried to contact him. She left her number, and it seems to be a long-distance one. Back at the university, Mark meets William in the dormitory, and William isn't happy that Invincible has spent so much time and hasn't helped at all with Rick's disappearance. William is worried about his friend, but Mark doesn't know what he can do. He's a superhero, not a detective. He wouldn't know where to start looking. William is a bit annoyed, and Mark tells him to calm down. He'll take care of it. But first, he has to make an important call. Mark dials the number and then talks to Eve. Throughout the night and into the next day, Invincible pays a visit to his girlfriend, Amber. She's just woken up and is half zombie-like. She has an exam in an hour and has been studying all night. Mark has come to propose that she should skip her class and come to Africa with him. Initially, Amber doesn't understand what he means, but then she comes to her senses. She's never been to Africa. Mark wants her to know that Eve invited him along with Amber, and now that Eve is living in Africa, it would be a good time to visit. Amber doesn't seem too pleased, and she thinks Eve is a good person. But she feels she has feelings for Mark. Mark finds this ridiculous. They're just friends and fellow superheroes. But Amber doesn't see it that way. Eve acts differently around Mark, and she wants to make sure that Invincible doesn't have feelings for her. Mark responds that he doesn't feel anything for her. He thinks she's pretty, but that's it. When he met her, she was with Rex, so he never thought about being with her. After resolving this issue, Amber and Mark agree to meet at 3:30 to go to Africa. Then we are taken to the University Clock Tower, which is where Dr. Sinclair's new secret lair is. He's been creating more Reanimin and using Rick to bring him new bodies. Although Sinclair has complete control over Rick, it seems that Rick still retains some subconscious. He feels sad about the things he's had to do. But according to Sinclair, all these things were necessary for him to create his army of 100 Reanimin. Elsewhere in the city, the Martian posing as the human called Russ Livingston doesn't know what to do with his life. He's been fired from NASA, and the days pass, leaving him bored. While he watches the news, he sees a documentary about Martian Man, one of the heroes that was killed by Omni-Man, and this gives him a brilliant idea. A few hours later, Mark and Amber arrive in Africa. The trip wasn't very pleasant for Amber. She feels nauseous from flying at such high speeds. Invincible apologizes, although this was his average speed. If they had traveled slower, it would have taken many more hours. Eve steps out of her house to greet them. It's been a while since she's seen Mark, and Mark thanks her for the invitation. He thinks Eve's house is spectacular. Although Mark initially thinks she bought it, the truth is Eve built this house with her powers. She's been training and can now do a lot of things. She offers them a comprehensive tour of everything she's built, but seeing how Mark and Amber treat each other, there's something inside her that simply can't handle this very well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel.